Great, awesome. So right here we have the project. I'm just going to delete my reducer right now. So I need this right here. Also get rid of this one and get rid of this right here and this right here. Somewhere with that. So that has store, and I'm just going to disconnect awesome. So actually, I think it didn't need to do any of that. Great. So the project is now ready. Just give me one more sec. Some features. Save that. Save these right here. Great. And let's start the project. Yes. Right. And while that gets started, let's first just set up our Redux. And to set up a Redux, first we have to go into index.js, and also we have to make sure we have them added. So they're not added, so let me add that right now. Turn add. So we're going to need Redux and React Redux. And while that installs, I'm going to set up the Redux provider inside of the of the of the main index.js. Right here, we're going to import provider from React Redux. Actually, we need to input create store. And then we're also going to import provider from React Redux. Okay, so let's check docs real quick. This is from React. So we have to find the provider. Great, so we get, okay, so yeah, provider for React Redux and create store from Redux. Okay, we have a provider. And then after that, we're going to be creating a store on our reducers file, but we are not there yet. So first, let's just connect this one, and it's going to fail. So pretty much we want to wrap our app component around the provider. And then in the provider, we're gonna say store. And now we have to create a store real quick. So right now I'm gonna already import or our reducer even doesn't have anything. So I'm going to say import, I'm just gonna call it car reducer from reducers and index.js. So we're gonna be creating a reducer in this file. Great. And now, right here, we have to create a store. So to create a store, we just, I'm just gonna call it car store. And we have to use that create store from Redux. And we're just going to pass in our reducer. Great. And now we have to put this car store inside our provider store. Okay, and this is going to fail right now because there isn't anything on the reducer right now. So let's go to our code. Yeah. So reducer index does not contain the default export of car reducer. And now we're going to go and set that up. So our reducer first has to have an initial state, which is going to be like the main state for our app. And then we have to export it, make sure we export it, and we're gonna make a reducer. So I named the car reducer, and the car reducer function is going to get a state and an action. Great. And this state, because we, as of before, when we used the use reducer hook, that reducer hook was initializing the state for us because we also pass the state. When using Redux, we have to initialize the state ourselves. So basically, if the reducer does not receive a state, the state is going to be initial state. And right here, we're going to create a switch function. And the switch is going to be checking for action types. So that's how we're going to control different different functionalities. So like adding, deleting. And that's how our reducer is going to know which ones to do. We have to say action type, and we'll see more of these in a bit. And right now, let's don't create a case, and let's just add the default. So if an action type is not passed, it's just going to return the initial state. Okay, and now that should be working. Okay, let's save this one. Import it as car reducer. Export this one too. And go to our index.js and make sure everything is set up properly. Okay, so let's check the docs real quick. So So we're going to be looking for the reducer. Let's check the example reducer they gave us. So, reducer, that should be right. And social index and, oh, okay, my bad. I forgot the curly brackets between the car reducer. Now that should be working. Great. So now we have our Redux store connected, but that doesn't mean we're using Redux yet. So now what we want to do, first of all, I'm going to get my main state, and I think that was on app.js. So let's check that. Great. So here we have our first, our initial state. So let's copy that real quick. So I'm gonna cut it because we don't need these anymore. And save that and add that to our initial state right here. Okay, great. And now, since just so it's a bit faster, I'm just going to connect Redux right now on the app.js so we can have access to the state. So to connect Redux, what we want to do is that we want to import, connect from React Redux. And then we're going to do two things. So let me get the state. So right here, first we want to say map state to props. And this function is going to receive the state. And right here, we're going to return the props that we want to add to our app.js. So let's see which ones are getting used. So, yeah, I'm sorry.
Does it have to say map state to props, or can we name it something?
You can name it however you want.
Okay, but this is what we're sticking with just for the.
Yeah, just because it's basically what it's doing. But you can say like Redux state. It doesn't really matter.
Got it.
Yep. So right here, let's see which information we are accessing. So we are accessing the state car, the state store, and I'm actually, let's see. I'm actually going to get rid of this one right now, the total, because we're going just for demonstration purposes, we're going to connect that on its own. All right, so now since we need the car, let's name the prop car, and let's set this prop equal to state dot car. So this is going to receive this object right here and set it to a prop named car. And we also need store, and this is going to receive the state, and then we need to access the store. Right? And last but not least, we have to connect Redux. So first, we have to pass the map state to props function. After we want to pass or maybe some function we want to use, but right now we're not using any functions. So I'm just going to leave it as an empty object. And right next to that, it's going to take a different, well, it's going to do, I think it's a inner function. And right here, we're going to pass wrap. And now let's test it real quick. So this is going to fail. So I'm just going to comment it out for 1 second. And I'm going to console log uh, the props. And we also have to add props to the argument, so it receives them. Great. Okay. Now let's go to our app. It's going to be empty. But if we open our console and or on props, now we're receiving the car props with all the information that it's inside the state. So right now, most of it is empty, features empty. We have the image, the name, and the price. And on store, we're getting the store items. So now our app.js is connected to the Redux. And so now let's, so we know that props.car is going to be that same uh, piece of the state. And props.store is going to be there. And total, let's comment that out for now, because we're going to connect that within itself, right? And now our app is getting this information from the Redux state instead of a local state. Great. Awesome. And now let's start creating one reducer for adding, or let's create an action so we can add features to our car. So right now, let me close most of these. So right now I'm going to go to the actions folder and open the index.js. And this one, so basically the actions, it's like an intermediary from the component and the Redux case. So whatever modifies our state. So right here, we want to do export cons, and let's just create a function that let's name it add feature. And this function is not going to receive anything. Or actually, my bad. This function is going to receive the feature. And then we're going to return an object. So what we're returning here is what our Redux, our reducer is going to receive here on action. So the action, depending on the action type, that's going to fire different cases, and we're going to make the case in 1 second. And then there's also a payload, and the payload is just like what information, what data we're sending to a reducer. Right here, let's say type, and let's call this add feature, and then a payload, it's going to be our feature. Great. yes, we would need a remove feature, and or is it just an additional way to do that? So we would also need, in a bit, we're going to do a copy of this, and that's going to be a remove feature function. So basically, you want an action for every different type of modification you wanna do on your state on your store. Okay, so we have the action now, and inside our store or switch, we can create a case. So right here on the case, um, we want to say if so the switch is receiving the action type, and depending on which action type it is, a case is going to fire. So right now, if we receive a case of add feature, we want to return. So what we're returning right here is actually going to be our new state. So in this one, it's really important that we're spreading this state so we get all the information. So we spread state, and then on feature, what we're going to do is that we are going to add a feature item. So that's going to be a feature object to your features array. So right here, let's go inside car. And since car is also an object, we also have to spread car. Yeah. So, so we get all the rest. So we get also this information because this is going to be our new state. And then we're going to modify features. And features, since we're adding feature is an array, and since we're adding one, and we want to be able to add more to them, more than one, we also want to spread um, this array, just in case it's more than one item. So this one is going to be a state dot features, actually dot car dot features. Great. And after we get all the information that's already inside that array, we're going to add the new feature. So the way to access that is through the payload. So action.payload, and there can be different ways, but I'm just going to send the whole object. So we're sending this, the action is going to receive the feature in the function, and that's going to send the action type and the payload. That's how we're sending them. Great, so now let's go in here and let's import the add feature. So right here we can say import from actions. Okay, so come on.
Do you have an index.js in that
Yeah,
actions folder?
yeah, I think I was just misspelling something, but this should be good.
Yeah. Dustin said that if you have an index.js in that folder, you can just name the name of the folder.
Yeah, it can be just like this. But I usually like to point to it. But
Okay.
you can also just have it the actions.
I thought it was pretty cool.
And we add, we get the add feature from there because it's already saved. And the way we want to connect the features with Redux, so we don't want to use that add features straight here. We want to be able to get that add features through props. So it's connected with our reducer. So right here inside this empty object we made inside the connect, so the second argument of the connect, we're going to add or add feature functions there. So what that's going to do is we're consoling props. Let's check props now. And reducers, car is not defined, line 24. So let's fix that. Line 24. Oh, okay, so this one has to be state.car. And now we should be good. Okay, great. And now let's check props. And we should see the function through on props. Great. So now we're getting the add feature function action. Sorry, we created. And so right now, let's just send that one down to the additional features. So let's name it just add feature. And we're going to be sending that function that is on props.addFeature to props. And now let's open additional features. And we don't want to use this one here, so I'm going to pass it down once more. Or actually, I'm going to connect it. Yeah, I'm just going to pass it. It's a bit faster. But you could just connect additional features. And so the cool thing about Redux is that you don't have to follow the component hierarchy. You can just connect any component. But right now, just to make it a bit faster, I'm just going to send it down. So I'll also name the prop add feature. And since we're sending that function to props right here, let's just send that one step further. Great. And now our additional feature should be getting that function for props. Great. So right here, what we want to do is that we want to add an onClick. And right here, this is kind of important because if you don't do it this way, you'll get an error. So if you're sending something into a function, on a click, if you're sending something to the function you're going to be using, um, you want to do a callback function and then use that function as the return. Because if you don't do it that way, it'll cause like an infinite loop and it will cause an error. Right here, since we're going to be passing something down because our action, and why isn't my action up? Because our action has to receive that feature. We're going to use a callback function and then use that and then get that function we passed down. And right here, since we're setting the whole feature, I'm just going to send props.feature.
That add feature your action function, your
Yeah,
add.
yeah.
Okay.
So we're passing that all the way from add to the additional features, and then we're passing that function down to add feature. And now let's just console log. So that's going to add it, but let's console log action on a reducer, and let's console log feature on our add feature. So we can see on the console what's happening. Okay, so now let's open DevTools and let's try adding something. And now it's being added. So what's going on? When we click on that, it first goes to our actions, and our action is receiving that feature. And then since we have our actions and our reducers connected to Redux, that is going to go to the that's going to fire this car reducer function, and or we're going to be getting our action that we're returning that from the add feature action. That's what the action that our car reducer is receiving. So if we see action, we should see what we were returning there. So action is an object with a payload of the feature object and the type of add feature. And then after it receives those, it's going to look for cases. So if our action.type is equal to the add feature, it's going to fire this case. And right here on the return, we're returning the whole new state. That's where we're using curly brackets. And then we're spreading the state so we get all the information of this state. And we're going to be modifying car. So right here we're creating a new car. That's why we have to also spread the state of the car or the uh, what the object car has in it. And then so that's getting all this information. And then in features is a new array. But if there are more than one feature, so if we only do this right here, this is only going to let you store one feature. So to avoid that, we have to spread what the feature already had. So all the previous features stay there. Great, and now let's just add a quick delete function.
I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Uh, can you go over? Do you mind going over again what you did on the app.js and the added features page? You did something to the additional features. You added something. I'm not sure what it was or why.
Yeah, sure. So right here on the app.js, basically what we're doing is that we import our action we want to use and or connect from Redux, and
Okay.
then inside we make a new function called map state to props. That function is what connect's going to use to to add props to our function. So that one added a prop of car and a prop of store, and then we just connected using connect, and then connect has two arguments. The first one is the function of the that maps the state props, and the second argument is just an object with the functions with our actions that we imported, and then we just use app. And then on
That
additional features, what I'm doing, I'm passing down the add feature function that we are getting from props,
okay.
and then I'm just passing down the change. So this one is pointing to the store, and I'm also sending that add feature to the additional feature, and here we're receiving it. So here pretty much I'm just saying when you click on the add button, we want to we want this callback function to fire. So when it fires, we want the add feature action to fire, and we're gonna be sending the feature, and that's why it's receiving the object.
Mm,
So right here we have our feature. So this feature is inside the action. So right here we can see actions.index.js, and we're sending, if we press on, for example, where's spoiler for feature we receive is spoiler one. So let's just add a delete function, delete action real quick, and we should be done. And I think I'll also record a video with a slower pace during lunch, because the pace of this one has been a bit quick. And I'm sorry about that. So right here, or actually, I just realized I started 2 hours, half an hour's late, right? Yeah, so actually we don't have that much. Okay, we still have 1 hour. Okay, so let's make the whole project. I don't know why. Okay, so it's been a weird day already. I woke up and I thought it was way later than it actually is. I never looked at the clock. So let's. Okay, so since we have a bit more time, I'm sorry. I thought I was later than I actually was. But let's, as of now, since I just realized we have more time, sorry about that. Uh, is there anything that you want me to clarify of what I already did? Everyone feel good right now?
Hmm.
All right, great. So that's good. And I'll just go over it at the end again. So right here, we're going to do a new feature, a new action, sorry. So we have to export it so we can access it later. And we're going to call it delete feature. And right here, let's also receive a feature, but then we're going to play with these inside of page. So since we're deleting, we have we need something to reference which item we want to delete. And for that, we're going to use I don't know why I always console. For that, we're always going to use one, the ID, or most of the time. We could also use the name, but the ID is just it's like the to-go thing to look for. So right here, I'm just going to copy and paste this return because it's going to be pretty similar. And now instead of add feature, I'm just going to change this to delete feature. And our payload, instead of being the whole feature, we're just going to send the feature.id. Great. And now let's go back to our app.js and import that, or actually let's go to a reducer first. So we set up the logic to modify state. So right here, let's create a new case. And that case is going to be delete feature. Right here, we're going to return a new state. So we have to do, I'm just going to copy this one. Because we're going to do something really similar, but a bit different on the features. So right here, we're getting the whole state, and then we're looking inside of car. We're getting the items for the car object, and then we're going to be modifying features. But now what I'm going to use to delete a feature is that I'm going to use a filter method on that array. So I'm going to say state.car.features, oh, features.filter. And right here, filter works kind of like a map, which in two ways. One way is that it iterates over the array. So it'll go over each item of the array, and it will also return a new copy, or not a copy, but it will return a new array. So filter is going to go through each feature. So let's say feature, but instead of creating one copy like map does, um, what filter needs on the return is a condition. So our condition is going to be if the feature ID is not equal, and actually is not equal to the action.payload, because we're sending the ID of the feature we want to delete. So if the feature ID is not equal to the ID we're deleting, send that to the new array of. And if it doesn't match this condition, it will just be omitted, so it'll be deleted. So now we can go into our app.js. And in here, actually it's not there, sorry, right here. We're also going to import that delete feature. And since we're using, we don't want to use that feature as is like this, we want to send a true prop so it's connected to Redux. So right here on the object on the connect, I'm going to add the delete feature action. Great, and now let's just check our app.js props. And great. So this is the props that app.js is receiving. It's receiving the add feature, and now it's also receiving the delete feature function of the action. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did here on the added features, but now instead of add feature, I'm going to be passing down delete. Actually, I'm just going to call it delete. And we have to access that function. So props dot delete feature. And now let's go to added features. Let me clean up this a bit. So now added features. Okay. So now we're receiving the delete prop here. So let's send one step down to the individual feature. So let's also send it as delete. And here I'm going to say props dot delete. And let me just check that I actually named it delete. And yeah, so it's sending delete with the function. And then we're also sending even further to the added feature. We're sending delete with the delete function. So now let's go to the added feature. And right here, we're going to do the same thing we did on the add feature. So we're going to do an on-click. And let's actually just do, let's omit the callback right now so we get that error. And right here, we're going to be sending the prop, the feature to, so props.feature. And now, let's see if we get that error. And so let's add something. And let's see. Okay, so let's get rid of this on-click real quick and let's see if that's the problem. Yeah. So basically, what was happening as soon as we added the feature, it got deleted because it's just firing the props delete. So I think we can check that on here. So yeah. So if you see when you click add, what that's doing, it's adding the feature. But then if we see here on this action on the reducer, it's also sending our feature. So that's not good. So because we don't want it to execute as soon as the component renders. So that's why we're using a callback function right here. So now when we add a feature, it shows, and we're able to delete them too.
So where did you put the deleted props, deleted feature at? You just went really fast. I missed it.
Yeah, that's fine. Let me, so the delete feature. So the delete feature, I'm passing it down from app.js. So I get it, first we get the deleted feature from the import, from the actions, and then we're sending that to connect. Actually, okay, I'll get that drawing in a bit. We send that to connect, and connect sends that feature to our component as props. So right here, I'm accessing that feature, function, sorry, and I'm sending it to added features with a prop named delete.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on
Added feature.
added features, I'm receiving it as a props.delete, but we want to send it one step down to our added feature, and then we're receiving this one in here. And also, you could also just connect. So another thing you could do, you could import connect on any component inside that is inside your app. So to any one of these ones. And actually, let's get rid of these delete prop for now, just to demonstrate. Right here, these the really cool things, the really cool things about Redux, that we don't actually have to um, pass props down all the time. Since that could cause, like Dustin said, something called prop billing. That is just like forcing your props down. So right here, we could say on default, let's just do connect, and connect is going to take 2 arguments. Since we're not receiving any state, I'm just going to create a callback function that returns null. I think that works. And we also need our object. And actually, let's import real quick the delete feature action. So this is more for like demonstration. I wouldn't really like this because I can access it through props, but it's just to demonstrate that it doesn't have to always be like down the line. Right here, let's say actions. Let's see. And let's add that action here. Actually, yeah, let's just return null. And then let's render added feature. And let's console props. Um, okay. So right here, come on load. Great. So let's add one. And if you see now, we have our console log from added feature, and we're actually getting the delete feature from Redux. So if we click on it, it's still going to work. And we're not passing any props to this one right here. We're not passing any props down from added features. We're actually passing it down. So let me get rid of that real quick. So now if we go here, okay. So this has to be props delete feature. we're accessing the action function directly from our added feature. Now it is working. So we can delete. Great. So now let me get rid of all of that. I just wanted to show that you can connect Redux pretty much wherever you want. Oh, not so bad. Yeah, that should be fine. And let me add the prop. And I think I also removed it on here. So let's go back. Great. And now that should be working. Great. And let's go to added feature is to reconnect it the way we had it. And make sure we're passing delete, delete, and adjust. We're passing delete as delete feature. Great. Which one? So that's the added feature. So it's not receiving the prop. So I think I just didn't save the added features correctly. So let's save it. Great. And now that's working. And now let's connect the count or the price. So we have total, and actually we're going to connect total like we connected the added feature. So this one we're only going to render it, so we're not passing any props to it, and this is going to fail because it's looking for props. Yeah. So we're rendering total. So now let's go to our total component. And I'm going to open my reducer just to take a look at the state. Okay. So our total wants to access the car price and the additional price from the state. So right here, I'm just going to connect, import, connect, import connect from React Redux. And we have to create the map state props function. You can name this however you want. And this one is going to receive the state. And we're going to be returning as props with a prompt name car. We're going to return the card object. So this object right here. So let's just, we say state.car. And I'm also going to return the additional price. And I'm just going to copy it and state.additional price. Now we have to connect our Redux. So we're going to say connect. After the export, we're going to pass our map state props as the first argument, and then an empty object, second one. So we're not using any actions in this component. And then we're going to render that component. That. And make this. Okay, so let's save it and let's console log props. I'm just gonna say total props. Oh. Great. Let's save it. And now this should run correctly. Great. And now let's open this. So we see our total amount is being displayed and our total props is receiving that additional card price and that card is props. And now let's add some extra logic to our add and delete feature so it updates the total amount. Okay, so when we add, we want to modify the additional price because that's what the total component is looking at. So it's getting the card price and then it's adding that to the additional price from the features. So right here, when we add a feature, we're also going to modify the additional price. And our additional price is going to be equal to the additional price that's already on state. So this one is also a similar issue that we had here because we want to add more than one price. So if we add multiple features, we want to keep adding that to the number that the additional price was before. So to do that, we're just going to say state that additional price so we get that number. And we're just right here. Let's say, let me check how the price is named. So let's add something. And we have our feature. So it's just price. So it should be payload.price. So action.payload.price. And comma. And let's test that. So now when we add one, we see that changing here. And now we have to add functionality. So when we delete it, it'll also delete it here. So let's do that. And actually to do that, I didn't think of that. So right now I'm just sending the ID. I'm not sending the price. So the actual payload is equal to the feature ID. So let's go real quick and modify that and send the whole feature. So now when delete feature is run, the action.payload is going to be the whole feature object. So right here we can say action payload.id, and that's going to look at the feature of the feature that we're at the ID of the feature that we're deleting. And we also want to do this right here. So now instead of adding it, so we want to know what the additional price number is beforehand. So we also need to use state that additional price, and we're just going to take away the action.pay price, which is the feature we're deleting. So right now we can add, and that changes this number, and we cannot delete. So let's fix that. Let's see. Oh, okay, I think let's check this real quick. So let's check our console logs and see why this is failing. All right, so we're able to add, and when we press delete, okay, so that now it worked now. Great. I think the reducers wasn't saved correctly. So now let's say we have 4, and we can remove them, and our total amount is changing. But now let's go a bit the extra mile. And first, before we start going through that, are there any other questions about what we just did?
Yeah, my button still doesn't even add. I don't know what I did wrong.
Okay, so let me go through that real quick. So let's see. So first, check your add feature, and you want to make sure you're exporting that first, and then you're receiving a feature, and then you're sending a return. You're sending the object with the type of add feature and the payload of feature. So that's getting received on your reducer. And then in your add feature case, first you want to do the action type of the switch. And then on the add feature case, you want to return a new object, which is going to be the newest. It's that object you're returning is going to be the new state. So you have to iterate to spread state, and then we're right here. We're just saying we're modifying price by adding the action.payload.price to state.additional price, and then we're also going to modify the car. And since we are modifying it, we also have to spread to car to get all the car information. And where is it? And we're going to modify the features property inside the card object. And here we're just getting all the previous features, so we can add more than one, and adding the action.payload, so the feature object to that features array. And now let's go into our app.js. So we connected our app.js to Redux by importing connect and creating a map state to props. So here we just telling Redux what we want, what we wanted to send us to state to props already. So we want to access the state.car so we can get the car information, and we want to access the state store so we can get the features you can buy. And we're sending those as a property of car and a property of store, and we're using those right here. And then we want to connect everything, or else these wouldn't work. So to connect, we're using the connect HOC, so hierarchy component. And the connect has, so it's like this, it has double, double like this, so it also executes the function that's inside of it. I think that's what this is doing. But right here on the connect, the first argument, we want it to be the map state to props. And the second argument, we want it to be our actions that we're going to be using with Redux. So right here, we import our actions. So we're importing the add feature, delete feature actions. Oh, that's cool. You know, VS Code could do this. So we can actually see the function. Right. So we're importing those actions, and then we're passing those actions to the second argument of connect, so we can connect them to our reducer. And when that's done, we should be getting the add feature function and delete feature function as props. So then on the add feature, we're sending that add feature function as props to the additional features component. And then on the additional features, we're receiving that as, okay, so that's added. So additional features, we're receiving that as props.add feature, and then we're just sending it down to the additional feature component as a prop name add feature again. So now we can check additional feature, And right here on the on we're using a callback function to be able to add them, and so it doesn't cause an infinite loop and cause an error. And yeah, and we're using the add feature function. We pass down as props, and we're sending props.feature to send the whole feature object. And were you able to find what was wrong with your code?
Nah, I think I have everything similar. Still giving me an error. This cannot add property toggle add features. Object is not established.
You cannot add property toggle add features. So how much time we have? So just going to Google.
Did you name yours with the word toggle?
Yeah.
Because he did not.
Yeah, but that's just the name I put. That's consistent throughout.
And you kept it consistent? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think you can try just console logging your props in your components and just name that like this one additional feature. I can say a feature and console log props, and do this for the components down the line of the toggle function, and just check that you're grabbing the right function.
Okay.
Because it might be a typo somewhere. All right, so now let's go the extra step on this project. And right here on additional features, we can actually add a feature more than once. You see, so we can repeat those features. So now we're going to implement something to avoid that from happening. So we can just add a, so this one is more like a V34 now. Okay. So now to do that, we have to do that inside of reducer. So I'm just going to close everything now. So I think there's a lot of ways to add that logic, but the way I would do it is I would add it using a filter. And what a filter does is if it finds a match, so right here, like this filter, if it finds if one of the items in the features, if one of the feature matches the ID or does not match the ID of the action.payload ID, that returns that feature. So we're only returning the items that match the condition we gave it. So I think we could do here is that when we have an action, we can check if it's when we have a feature and we add a new one, we can add some logic to check if that feature is already in that array. And if it's already in that array, instead of returning this right here, we would just want to return state.features. So we wouldn't want to add anything. So let's do that. So right here, I'm going to use a ternary operator. So I'm going to say state.car.features. And I'm going to filter. And on the filter, I'm going to say features. So, no, actually, feature. And we want to return to the new array that the filter is creating. We want to return the matching feature. So we're doing pretty much the opposite of this. We want to see if that ID is already there. So we can say feature.id equals dot payload dot id. Okay, and what this is doing, this is actually returning a new array, and if the ID matches, that's going to fill that array with one item. And if it doesn't match, it will just be an empty array. So actually, I think, let me do that up here for now so it's more visual. So let's say const, and let's say demo equals to that filter. And then let's just console log demo. Great. So right here, let's open our DevTools. And all right, so our demo array is empty because it doesn't have anything to check. So that condition, so this condition is false. That's why it's empty. And if we add one more, that condition it's still returning an empty array, and that's because on the added features there is an there on the features array it was empty, so it didn't have anything to compare. But if we press add again, and actually, yeah, if we press add again and look at our demo, this condition is true because the feature ID, one of the features has the feature ID that is the same as the action.payload ID. So if we see our feature, so right here we can actually check them. So this one is our state at that moment, and it has the ID of, it has the feature of this V6 engine with the ID of 1, and the feature we're sending to the action has the action.payload, sorry, has an ID of 1 too. So what our demo is doing is checking if there's an item inside the features array that has the same ID as the action.payload ID. And if that's true, that's going to return that object to the new uh, array. So a thing we can do, we can actually console log demo.length, because we're going to be using that. Okay, so if it doesn't match, if there isn't one added already with that ID, it's just going, the length is going to be 0. So demo, it's 0 all those times. But once we repeat one of them, that array is going to be filled with that object that is being repeated, so the length is going to change. So now we see demo 1. And let's remove, I didn't add a key, so let's ignore that for now. So demo 1, demo, not demo. So now we can check for that length. So we can say if the length is greater than 0, so if it's a 1, that means the item is already in that array. So we don't want to add it again. So let's just grab this filter and go down to our features. And so right here, we want to say if state.card.features.filter, and that's going to return the new array, and we want to check its length, and we can actually just check its length like this, because filter is returning and then we're reading its length. If that length is greater than 0, that means the length is 1. So when that happens, we want to return what we had before. So that's going to be the state.card.features. And And if the length is not greater than 0, so it's 0, we want to return this right here. And now let's test it. Actually, let me, let's see. Let's keep console logging this. And let me remove. Okay, it didn't save. And also let me remove some console logs, so we can clean that up a bit. Actually, let's just leave it like that. All right, so now our demo is 0 because there isn't anything to check. We have the V6 and our demo is still 0. So that means that this condition is false because the new array isn't greater than 0. It's 0. And if we try adding V6 engine again, it won't add anything, and that's because the new demo is 1. And we, in the rule we gave it, we say that if the array we get from the filter is greater than 1, we want to return just the previous state. Yeah, and now we're not able to add to repeat different features. But we see that the total amount is still changing, so we have to implement that to the total amount too. So let's do that. So on our reducers, we can just copy and paste these right here. Oh, oops. And right here on additional price, let's grab it. So if the length is greater than 0, so if there's something inside the array, we wanted to return the additional price. So the previous additional price, and actually I did this backwards. And if the length is 0, so this is false, we want to actually add it. So let's test that now. Okay, we added 4 of them, and if we click, it shouldn't add. Great. So now our total amount is not changing. It's working. Great. And how much? We still have 10 minutes, but I think I'm going to leave that for a question. So anyone has any question, any comments, anything you all would want some clarification on?
Is it possible for you to post the source code on Slack?
Yeah, I'm going to create a code sandbox and a YouTube video out of this recording.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And okay, so actually, before y'all leave, let me create a tail attendance just so I don't miss anyone. So if you're here, just response to this thread. Okay, I want to see y'all there. So there's 8 participants, so we're still missing 4 people.
Well, 1.
If you were not set for 2 hours, that's fine too. Don't worry about it. Nothing should happen. So you're more as a spectator, which is fine.
I had a question about reducers and actions.
Yeah.
So you can import them into your reducer.
No.
Okay.
Importing them because they connect with Node.js. So right here, let me go to app.js. Actually, I have it right here. So first, our connect, it's accessing our reducer from the very beginning. So it's or connect is accessing the reducer from the index.js source, because we create a store and we give that we create a provider. It's kind of like context, and I think Redux actually uses context on their code, and we create a store with the initial state of the reducer. And then when we use connect, this connect is actually, since app is being wrapped on a provider, this connect has where is it? This connect has access to that provider. So this connect has access to that Redux store, and basically what we're doing is that we're from that Redux store using map state to props. We're telling it which like what information we need from the Redux state, and that is going to be sent as prop to that component. And then, so basically connect is connecting the state and the actions together. So we only import the actions into the file we're gonna be using them at. And this connect is handling the connecting the reducer and the actions together.
So how do the reducers reference the actions in the case
Through the connect.
through the connect?
Yeah, so the connect is doing it's kind of, I'm not entirely sure how it works behind the scenes, so I don't want to get super in depth, but what the connect is doing, actually we can check it. So first I'm going to explain it really briefly. So connect is grabbing those actions and it's connecting those to the reducer. But since we don't see reducers here, it can be kind of, the reducer here, it can be kind of confusing, but it's getting the reducer from this store right here. So it's kind of like context API that you can just use that, use context, I think it is. Or you can access that information from anywhere that is inside of the app. And that's how it's getting to the user. So let's check real quick on the Redux docs. And maybe that's going to be, let's look for connect. And let's look for find connect. Okay, so it was that one. So let's go to basic tutorial. Store. Let's see if it connects here. I think it might be on the reducers. Okay, I lost it. Where is it? Maybe on introduction. Okay, so let's just use Redux connect. Okay. Great. So our connect function connects a React component to a Redux store. Okay, so it provides the connected component with the pieces of data it needs from the store and the function it can use to dispatch actions. Okay, but let's see if we can find the inner workings. Let's see. Okay, so let's see. If we find something more in depth.
Hey, Marguel.
Margot, yes.
Okay, yeah. I need to get going, but I understand the concept.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, so I think Corey, yeah. So I would I'll keep looking for how Connect works behind the scenes. But basically, what Connect is doing is connecting the action to the reducer and sending sending everything we say on the map state props and the functions as props to the component we tell it to render. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't give you a better answer for that. But to be honest, I'm not entirely sure
Oh, no, it was good.
how Connect is working.
Thank you.
Yeah, bro. All right, and we still have. Oh, we don't really have much time, but I'm just gonna get one more question. So, does someone have an extra question? Okay, I'm gonna take 5 seconds. All right, so it seems there are no more questions. I'm going to add these to a code sandbox, and I'll post it like I did this last one. And I'll also post a YouTube recording of the lecture. All right, so it's been let me
Hey,
start.
actually, I tried to pull up your video from last night, and it seems to not be working.
Oh, really? Okay, so okay, so let me. I'll check on that. And actually, your video exceeds the maximum video length for unverified accounts. Okay, so I just have to verify my account. Uh,
Okay,
I'll do that and make sure that's fixed.
awesome. Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. And where's my stop share? And I'll